From the day Nintendo revealed the price hike for Mario Kart World, they've insisted that the upcoming Direct would justify the additional cost. World is so full of content, features, and value for consumers, we were told, that once we got a look at it, $80 for digital and $90 for physical would seem like a steal. Well, the Direct has come and gone, and the price makes as much sense now as it did before. None. Nothing I saw during the Mario Kart World Showcase justified a dime more than the $60 Nintendo charged for 8. Twice. And surprisingly, the article we're going to look at from Mashable agrees. Though the conclusion the writer reached wasn't the obvious one, that the price increase isn't justified. No, after serious thought, this serious journalist concluded that Nintendo never needed to justify the price hike in the first place. The fault isn't with Nintendo for lying, but with consumers for having standards. Quote, on Thursday morning, Nintendo kicked off the post-hump day portion of the week with a juicy little Nintendo Direct live stream focused on Mario Kart World. It was nice to get some fun new details about the flagship launch title for Switch 2, but the Direct didn't really answer the biggest question on many gamers' minds. Why does Mario Kart World cost $80? Now that the live stream is over, I don't feel Nintendo really revealed anything to explain it, and I've actually played Mario Kart World. But after giving it some thought, and wanting so badly to scold Nintendo for nickel and diming customers, I realized that maybe the price doesn't even need to be justified. Close quote. From here, the writer repeats a couple of the more common talking points for why games should cost more. The first and longtime favorite of shills everywhere is inflation. Game prices haven't really kept pace with price increases over the years, so rather than feeling shafted, gamers should be appreciative that games have remained cheap for so long. Quote, video game prices have been flat for a long time, even as other tech products get more expensive. In general, prices go up over time. It sucks and no one likes it, but that's life. You used to be able to get a week's worth of food at Taco Bell for $20, and now you can't. It's actually a strange aberration that game companies maintained a $60 price tag for so long. Close quote. You'd think this talking point has been responded to enough times that people would stop using it. It's like a zombie argument that refuses to die. But in case you weren't familiar with some of the more common rebuttals, let's go through a couple. So I think the reason this argument continues to be repeated is that it's technically true. The price tag of games hasn't increased with inflation over time. But that's not the full story. For one, manufacturing and distribution costs are much cheaper today than 30 years ago. The cost of physical mediums like cartridges and discs have fallen dramatically since the days of the NES and SNES. And the advent of digital games has cut out those costs entirely for a large portion of sales. But more importantly, while the price on the sticker hasn't changed much, the size of the market has. The number of people who purchase games has more than doubled over the same time period. For example, the NES, Nintendo's first home console, sold about 60 million units worldwide in the 12 years it was on the market. In comparison, their most recent console, the Switch, has sold more than 150 million units in about half that time. And that doesn't even account for all of the additional costs outside of the initial price of games. It doesn't include microtransactions, monthly charges for online games, DLC, and charges for features that would have been standard 20 years ago. In short, game developers are doing just fine. Nintendo, while far from the largest company in Japan, is currently the richest, with $11 billion in available cash and zero debt. Does that strike you as a company struggling to earn a buck? Of course, the author doesn't stop with inflation. Next, we're fed a guilt trip about how our desire for reasonably priced games harms innocent developers. Sure, we might not care whether Nintendo's shareholders earn a few extra bucks, but surely we don't want poor game devs to go without food. Quote, while Nintendo cut contractor positions from its testing department last year, the company does not have an extensive history of doing mass layoffs for full-time employees. Much of this is undoubtedly due to friendlier employee rights in Japan compared to the US. But it should be noted that Nintendo has, in the past, actively worked against doing layoffs. For example, former CEO Satoru Iwata once cut his salary in half to make sure jobs wouldn't be lost. And if the cost of treating employees fairly is slightly pricier video games for the Switch 2, I'm okay with that. Close quote. This argument is particularly insidious because, if true, it's one consideration that might convince some gamers to pay a little more. Most of us want fair treatment and pay for employees, game devs included. The problem is that there's absolutely no evidence or data that shows a correlation between an increase in game prices and higher pay or better working conditions for developers. People who make this argument simply assume that it does, or that it's at least a reasonable inference. It's possible, sure. The extra money can go wherever Nintendo wants to spend it. But without data showing it goes primarily to developers, we have no reason to assume it does. Besides, let's not pretend as though devs at Nintendo are starving. They make about $150,000 a year, which is almost twice the median household income in America. They may not rake in what the higher-ups or shareholders do, but they aren't in danger of missing any meals either. Ultimately, however, these arguments miss the most important aspect of pricing. Games are worth whatever consumers are willing to pay. You can't derive the correct price for a good or service by calculating costs or measuring inflation. Nintendo doesn't get to decide how much value their games offer. That's for us to decide. The real reason Nintendo is raising prices is that they're convinced we'll pay it. Sure, we'll grumble and complain and make angry posts on Twitter, but at the end of the day, we'll pay. But we can prove them wrong. You don't need a Switch 2 or Mario Kart World. There are more brilliant indie titles on Steam than you could finish in a year, most of which are under $20. Play some of them for the time being. Nintendo has proven that they don't care about negative public perception. The only way they will drop prices is if it hurts their bottom line. And make no mistake, other studios are watching. If you pay $80 for Mario Kart World, you'll soon be paying the same for whatever annual slop Ubisoft or EA churns out next. $80 will quickly go from an aberration to the industry norm. If you want to avoid that future, don't let Nintendo or some hack journalist convince you games should cost more. They can pick the price, but they don't decide what you're willing to pay.